Diro, dironde, dirararo, dironde, dirararo, dironde, diradaronde.
What's Underneath is a CastBox original produced in partnership with Studio 71.
CastBox is the fastest growing, highest rated podcast app on both iOS and Android, where you can find all of your favorite podcasts.
You can listen to What's Underneath wherever you get your podcasts, but we hope you'll give CastBox a shot and see for yourself.
Hello and welcome to What's Underneath,
the podcast that will inspire radical self-acceptance through empowering you to embrace what's unrepeatable in you.
I'm Lily Mandelbaum, and sitting next to me is my mom, Elisa Goodkind.
And we are StyleLikeU. So I'm already jumping out of my seat today because we have Wunmi here, who is an artist, a musician. I mean, right now I have complete head crown envy for the beauty of which she walked in this door this morning in terms of her hair, which I guess all of you will have to look at our Instagram to see what that was. And she also designs her own clothes. So I even hesitate to just call her a musician. She's a dancer. She's an artist. She's an all-around 360-degree full-on expression of beauty and love and amazing energy. So I'm psyched to be here for this.
How are you feeling right now?
I had this butterfly feeling of anticipation. It's not every day that you be in a place where you can express who you are freely. I love what I do. I mean, and like I said, I'm being me. So it feels good to be in a place where that is appreciated.
For you to say that, even just to express that, feels amazing to me. The fact that you get that, and someone like you, and with all of your experience and with how free and alive you are as a person, it's just an honor to me that you get that from us, because what we're trying to do is something that's not always that understood.
I think it's not understood by those folks who are afraid to be themselves. It's very much understood by folks who live to be themselves. I mean, it's literally the only way that I can think. It's everything else in this world is controlled. So being able to get up in the morning and be who you want to be at that present time, it's like breathing air. So for me, it's being around folks who understand that is...
Yeah.
It's a safe place.
You were saying earlier that your expression came from control.
I was born in England and sent to Nigeria at the age of 4. I'm my father's only child, and I'm the first of 3 girls that my mother has. Growing up in Nigeria, dressing up became my way of having conversations. It was my way of making myself happy. When I came back to England, it was definitely the one tool I had. My dad was, if you're of an African parent, you know, they told you where to go, how to go, what time you're in, what time, very straight. And the one control I had, again, was the way I looked. I dressed. I wore my school uniform. When I got back, I changed. And literally, if I decided I wanted to wear my clothes inside out, I would. And there was a period when I did wear all my clothes inside out. I found things so much more fascinating about what was inside the garment rather than what was outside. And much as my father wasn't happy, that was the one place he left me alone with. He controlled everything else, right down to what subjects, what I did at school, everything. So it was like breathing air. And I remember being in South London. I grew up in Stockwell. When I came out lived in a tower block, coming down, and the kids would see me and they would go, "Here comes weirdo." It actually made me happy because they saw me. It's like I wasn't, I think that's all the things, like you see me. I don't have to speak because you see me come in. So that was my way of claiming space.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, I think it's kind of sad when you think that it's so unusual and so not acceptable to be yourself.
Everyone embodies that in different way. Other people used to dress like somebody else, to be, you understand, you all want to dress the same. That was like the worst thing you could tell me to do. And it went with everything else. I didn't want to dress like anybody else. I didn't want to dance like anybody else. I didn't want to sing like anybody else. I so needed to find me because I felt so lost. Like I wasn't somebody that I felt was wanted initially, so I needed to be needed.
What do you mean you felt lost and you didn't feel wanted?
Well, my mom gave me up.
She gave you up?
Yeah, I was in foster care in England. But my mom had me very young. Thankfully, my father stayed. And when his siblings, who were also in England studying, were all going back home to Nigeria, he sent me with them to his mom. So I was with his mother, with my grandma. But unfortunately, she passed on. But before she passed, my dad's older sister took me in. And it was not a happy place to be because she had her own. It was like the child that you're always the after child. You were not. This is not my dad, it's not my mom, I'm the cousin. So there's always that feeling that nobody wanted me. But I made myself be wanted. I mean, when the party, nobody saw me until when the music came on, I danced, everyone knew Ibiwunmi was in the house. So it's the same with the way I dressed. Like nobody saw me, but when I dressed up, everyone knew Ibiwunmi is in the house. So my name is Ibiwunmi, by the way. Ibiwunmi. Wunmi is on stage. Ibiwunmi is off stage. So
your dad was in England.
Yeah, he's still there.
And he's in England now.
Everyone is still there. Even when I was in Africa, I literally was alone. They were all in. They would come, look at me, visit, and they would leave again. It was kind of weird.
Wait, who would come?
My mom and my dad.
So you still know your mom? You know your mom?
She came to see me. I was 10 when she visited Nigeria, when I remembered her coming, and I met her for the first time.
What was that like?
So funny. Okay, so years later on, my father told me she actually came to see me when I was leaving England, but I don't remember that. I left England on a boat because back then people didn't fly; they went by those big, massive ships. That
when you were initially, when you were
when I left England
by yourself.
Yeah, with a whole bunch of his siblings were all leaving, so I was with cousins again, going to Nigeria for the first time. I thought I was going on a holiday. It was a 10 years holiday. So I was in Nigeria. I'm with everybody who have mom and daddy, and I'm like, what's my story? Well, my mom is in England. I made up stories, and she's doing this really important job, and once the job is finished, she'll come and get me. By the way, I haven't met her yet. I don't know what she looks like, and I imagine my mom looked like everybody else's mother. And I was up a tree because I'm always climbing trees, and there was these two women walking in, white women as we would call them. And my friends are like, oh, Wunmi, Ibiwunmi, there comes your mom. I'm like, yeah, right. Just because my mom is Indian doesn't mean she's white. And then sooner or later, I heard her call me to come indoors. I was like, no, it's not happening. Because I had told this story to all my friends that my mom was like their mothers.
What did you think in your head? Like, describe what their mothers looked like.
Mothers are cuddly. They look like mothers. They don't look like a woman.
Like teenagers.
Yeah, they don't look like models, and they're not models.
Nurturers.
Yeah, mothers and nurturers. They literally, you could sit in there on their lap and they could cuddle you and you could feel their breasts and all of that stuff. But the woman who came down walking as they were, she was a vision. It was like Sade, that's it. Sade the singer walking down. I had these two emotions, one of joy, confusion and sadness, because suddenly my stories wasn't making sense anymore. My story, oh my God. How do I explain
So it's like
this?
a death in a certain way.
Yeah. And it was the beginning of the trauma that would begin, because the person who sat in front of me could never be a mother. And it was the truth.
So the reality, so your fantasy, like
Everything.
at least when you didn't know her,
It was
you
perfect.
had the fantasy.
She was going to come and get me. She was busy doing this job because she's doing what mothers, she's working hard, but she would come and get me. And then she came and I was like, this one's never going to get me.
So what about her wasn't mother? Like, what couldn't be a mother?
Can you see Naomi Campbell being...
Right.
I can't explain it. Just
Right.
This was... Everyone around me had mothers. They had mothers. They had mothers. I've never saw a mother like her. That was basically it. I was this little kid who was dying. Whenever I at this point, I used to call my dad's sister mom, because I grew up with her. So... And every time I would introduce her, now I would obviously mom. Then after she's gone, I'll say, but she's not my mom. Then I would tell them the long story. My mom is in England and she's doing this and she's gonna come and get me. So you understand? I've said this over and over and over. And finally,
it was real
there's two
in your mind. Because at the end of the day, all that really matters is what's in your mind.
Yes.
Well, that's what you were saying. This was reminding me of what you were saying when
Wishing.
we stopped you, like right
Yes.
before the interview, about how wishing for something is more important. You
Than
said
the
than the
actual-
actual thing.
Yes.
Can you talk about what you mean by that?
So I'd come to the realization, obviously, I feel like I've done the work on understanding who I am and realizing how big wishing, and I put wishing on yearning, when you've been consumed with yearning for something. I've been yearning for my mom. I've been yearning for a love that would take away all the things that I didn't understand, and all the hurt and all the misunderstanding, that would make everything that was wrong make sense. That, okay, I went through all this because this was coming, and it never came. And then after a while, you just continue wishing and yearning, that you've gotten so used to that emotion that you don't even realize that you've not switched it off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer the actual thing you want, it's actually the wishing that has become the comforter. Why do I need to be seen? Why do I needed to be somebody worth seeing. I was somebody who felt wasn't wanted. So I made myself wanted. I made everything that I can do to make myself. And at the same time, I don't always want to be in a place. How can I explain it? So when we talk about introvert and extrovert, I will walk the street naked because it's no big deal to me. But I wouldn't necessarily do it because somebody asked me to do it.
I so understand. We did What's Underneath, Lily and I ourselves. I could do it over and over again. I can take my clothes off on that video and no problem, and expose my deepest emotions and just be myself. But we have another video series called Second Skins, where people with opposite styles switch clothes and walk in another person's shoes. The most anxiety producing dread conceivable to me, that I would walk out the front door and that anybody would misunderstand who I am for 1 second. And I totally get the naked thing, because and doing what people say. Like, I mean, I'm just so fascinated how similar our response is to a similar thing.
It's the ownership of myself. Like I give of myself. So there's a place, like even when I got into the whole dancing thing, and I was with Soul to Soul, and they picked a whole bunch of us to choreograph, and I remember going through the whole thing, and I suddenly stopped, like, I can't do this. I don't want to dance like nobody. I don't want nobody else dancing like me. I was losing why I danced. I really danced because I just want to be me. I feel like I've been in a place of not seen, if it makes sense, because it's like, how can you not be seen? It's like, I'm not losing me. I don't want to lose me. So I didn't want to dance like nobody else. I just wanted to do my dance. And when they turned around and it was like, yeah, we want to just go with one person, I said, okay, cool. They said, no, one person, that's you. I was like, I get to do, I said, you just do you. I mean, I just
wow.
do. And that's how I ended up being the Eat girl, the Soul to Soul girl. Because
Wow.
were
you on that song, the big song?
I'm the girl on the album cover. I'm the girl with the long hair flipping everywhere. I'm the one in the Back to Life, Keep on Moving.
Oh, there's just so much to say about all this. It's such a fundamental boundary. A mother to a child, a parent to a child is like such a basic fundamental right. That when that gets crossed, or when that gets...
I think the first issue of issue that rise up from feeling abandoned is if your mother is not there. How to explain that? And when you look all over and everyone has a mother, how do you explain you not having a mother? And I didn't have a mother, and I couldn't explain to anybody why I didn't have a mother. And when my mother finally showed up, I really didn't have a mother. I don't know which was more crushing. If I had been left with my dream that I had a mom, and then she never showed up, I think I probably would have been better off. Because her showing up and not being the mother, and actually there was a point in time when she actually verbally said to me to stop calling her mom, because I was irritating her. Because I literally, when she came, I shadowed her. Do you understand? I called somebody else's mom who wasn't my mom, and now I really had my mom, and I could say it and it wasn't a lie. And then she said, stop calling her mom. And for years, I'm a grown woman now, and I really had to tell myself, let the baby go. You are okay.
Is that something that you feel like it's like a daily?
I wrote a song
practice?
in my second album that's not out, and the song is called Little Girl, and it's a lullaby, and it's really literally, it's a song that if I had a mother, she would say to me.
You learned to mother yourself.
Can we hear some of the lyrics?
From a little girl. It's hard. I'm not able to sing it yet. It's like the first album, I had a song that was dedicated to that relationship, and it took me years to sing it. And when I finally sang it, I no longer cried. So when I don't cry anymore, then I can sing the song. It's no longer my song. And I remember when I finally was able to do that song, everyone in the audience were crying, and I wasn't crying. So I've passed that threshold. I knew that I had to. And now with this song, it's like my lullaby song to the child that I'm not going to have.
The child that you're not going to have yourself. Let it go. Everybody cries in these interviews. Everybody. Yeah. Just let it out. It's natural.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like that. So from a little girl, she knew her time will come, because her mother told her so before she gone. Little girl, love yourself. Let your truth be your shield and your guide. For your time shall come, oh baby, never shy away. Little girl, feel no way. Don't worry what the people say. Remember what your mama say, 'cause soon you'll find your way. Little girl, feel no way. Don't worry what the people claim. Remember what your mama say, 'cause soon you'll find your star.
That's beautiful.
So beautiful.
These are things that I think about all the time. Like, why? Okay, so betrayal. Like, the parent-child. Like, it's like sort of the ultimate betrayal.
It's the biggest one. I think it's the beginning. And I always had this saying that we all know this growing up. And then you know how damaged the world is, because as a child, we all know what is missing. And when you become an adult and you decide to have a child, then you know above all that what you don't want is the child to spend their adulthood trying to overcome a childhood. So make sure they have a childhood so their adulthood is not spent in suspension.
What are the ways that you see this abandonment kind of complex or struggle like come up in your life as an adult?
Making choices from a place of yearning and wishing rather than from a place of knowing, owning. I could be a mother right now, but I chose not to because I was scared that I would be like my mother. So instead of having a baby, I gave up. I had an abortion.
What you said about adulthood, like there's so many of us. I mean, if not all of us, on some level, are adults who are children.
Still children.
And I'm just what I want to like sort of discuss or like bring up or just throw at you is we're all getting betrayed. Like we're all like our teachers are around us all the time. You think something's a certain way, you think someone is a certain way to you, you think something is solid, and boom, they're nothing of what you thought they were. So I guess what I'm trying to, and then I look at you who look at what has blossomed. Like, yes, there is this incredible, and I feel for you so deeply, the sadness about having the abortion. I really understand that so deeply. But at the same time, and that you've had so much pain and struggle. But at the same time, I look at you and the minute you walked in the door and your expression in every way, like your spirit is so strong, your style is so strong, your art is so strong. And your life, you live in 3 places, you have this incredible, so out of this blossomed this beautiful
and it's
being.
Acknowledging that, and that's the place where you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself, because you didn't realize that it made you who you are. And if you are able to be conscious enough to understand that this person is a product of all that journey, just like my name was bigger than me when it was given to me. I couldn't even pronounce it to begin with, but I now understand that was the name Ibiwunmi. Ibi means to give birth, Wunmi means to like, to love. So I'm a child loved, I'm a birth loved, I'm a life loved. But I had to walk into that shoe. And for a long time, that wasn't a shoe that I thought I could wear.
This is what's also fascinating is we all look at each other and we think there's some kind of solid, good place that people are in.
That everything stops, like the pain stops being there, or you stop feeling sad when you... No, it's when you finally know that all those things make you who you are. It doesn't break you. It makes you who you are. It makes the talent that you are. It makes the everything that people go on about is because all those things that happened that gave you the impetus to go and just be.
When did you so can you talk a little bit about the rest of your childhood and when did you leave, go back to England and come here?
So my mom came and left. My dad, he came and he left. And I would hear stories among cousins, because whenever my dad's sister would travel to England, they would look at me and say, "You didn't go?" And I didn't understand what it meant, I didn't go. But all along, it turned out that I was supposed to have gone with her. She always managed to forget. How can you forget somebody you're supposed to take with you? She never remembered to take me with her when she's going. I always got forgotten. And when my dad would come, he ask me, what do I want? What would I like? And I'll make a list. And I never received any of those stuff. It wasn't until I got back to England and we actually talked, and he said, I sent it. I gave her the money. I never saw anything. And there was a particular time when I knew he was supposed to be coming, and she had told me he wasn't coming for me, and she was going to report me. So it was like my dad's sister, who I was living with at this point. It was just like Cinderella. I hated Cinderella because I thought that was my life, and I was like, nah, I am not interested in watching no Cinderella. But as a child,
your dad's sister was taking the money and the
presents? She had her own children, and I guess if she'd been giving me my things, then I would have things that her children didn't have. I didn't get any of the things my father sent to me. And even when my mother sent me stuff, it was always in a trunk. I never got to wear half of the stuff my mother sent to me. I ended up in England with no underwear because I had no underwear. I used to be one of those child who wet their bed. I was a nervous wreck. I came back to England when I was 14, and it was maybe I stopped peeing on myself when I was 16, but I stopped feeling like I was going to do it when I was 18. So for 16 to 18, I was still nervous. I was still going through that, catching
Panic.
myself. Yeah. But I used to wet myself. And when I was told that we were all going now to England, my auntie with her kids, I went to my auntie's husband to go and say thank you, because supposedly he bought my ticket and he gave us all this, only to find out after I turned up in England that I wasn't going on a holiday. I was actually coming home to stay, and my dad was paying for all of that. So it wasn't what it was. And for me, I had a mom who wasn't my mom, and I had a mom who wasn't my mom.
Right. Double.
And so I came back to England not knowing I was coming back to stay. And I wasn't actually looking forward to it because I was going to be reported to my dad, who was going to... So what was I going over there for? So I could have a miserable time so that my dad could beat me or punish me, because my auntie was going to report me to him.
Report you for what?
For whatever it is, that crimes I've been committing. Basically, you put a fear of God in somebody. So you're not looking forward to being with people that you're supposed to be with. When my dad was coming, she basically told me it wasn't coming for me. So when he came to England, to Nigeria, I would be like, you're not coming for me. And he came, he left. And I remember the conversation we had was like, why didn't you write me? I said, what should I write you for?
He said that to you?
Yeah, why didn't I tell him what was going on? I'm like, what? You came and you left.
Are these the discussions you had when you finally came back to England?
Yes.
And how did he feel about it all?
He felt bad, but I was a mess, physical mess. So we had to talk, and I had to tell him I was abused. Why didn't you tell me? I said, what do I say to you?
You were abused in Nigeria.
I was
Emotionally
molested.
abused?
I was molested.
In Nigeria?
Yes.
By?
Everybody and anybody who was a male in the house. Because when you leave a female child unattended, you're leaving a child vulnerable. And my auntie had a daughter, but she never left that daughter. So she knew. She took her daughter everywhere she went. She never left her daughter. She left her son.
And so when you discussed all of this so what happened between you and your
There's
father?
nothing my dad can say, but what can he do? I mean, he made a choice to not come back to Nigeria when he did, and he made a choice to leave me there. And yeah, he was full of guilt. He felt bad. He felt maybe if he hadn't sent me home to Nigeria, maybe my mom would have, but my mom wouldn't have, because my mom couldn't do it.
Did you ever connect back with her?
Yeah, because when I came back to England, my mom lived in West London, I lived in Stockwell. From the age of 14 till I was 21, I had to go and visit her every weekend. That was my dad's way of trying to make amends, thinking that would bring us back together. It wasn't going to happen, because my mom didn't have a bone in her to be a mother like that. And there was no love between the two of us. It was just, she's my mom, I'm her daughter. She wanted of me the role that you're supposed to play as a daughter, the African way. You do things for your mom. She'd say, sweep the house, you sweep the house. I was full of resentment. Like, you didn't do nothing.
There was no acknowledgement of who you were.
Well, you didn't end this.
You didn't raise me.
No. And so, and I was actually, I'm told
You're
by
not
my mom.
her servant.
No. And I was angry. And she was scared of me. And it was kind of like a weird kind of thing. So,
would you like express you would be angry outward, or just you could feel
because
it?
I was raised a proper African child. You don't, even when the adults are wrong, you don't speak up. But I had a younger sister who she raised, who did everything that I didn't do, fought with her. They had fights.
Oh, so she had another daughter.
There's three of us.
And
I'm the oldest.
Are you close with them now or no?
I'm close.
Were they brought up in London, or
My middle one was raised in Leicester, born and raised in Leicester.
brought up by your mother and father?
No, we all have different fathers. There's three of us.
And so they all ended up with the father?
Everybody, except for the younger one whose father passed away. So she ended up taking her in. So we were all in foster care at different times.
If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please subscribe and give us a good rating so the powers that be can keep this podcast going.
We're talking about my life right now. We're not even talking about styles.
Well, that is your life. It's both. Life and style are... Your life has informed your style.
Yeah, definitely. I made myself whole again. I made myself worthy of my own love. I made myself like... It's kind of like saying that you would not see me.
When you say you made yourself whole again,
I made myself special for myself.
What did you? Can you talk about that process a little bit? Like, did it begin around then when you were back in London?
When I came back to England, I didn't speak much. I mean, it was funny enough. My thing was watching people and being wary. Like, rejection is major for me. So I'm not trying to get into a situation that I don't understand or don't feel. And I entertained myself by dressing up. That was my shadow. When I dance with my shadow. When I dress in a way, however I won't make it. I was having conversations with myself and the world through the way I dress. When I started going to school, I had a close couple of friends, and my teachers noticed that when music came on, I came to light. So people may not notice me, but when music came on, they couldn't. I danced, and the way I dressed, I made my own clothes. I went out of my way to make my own clothes. I used to sew by hand till I finally got a machine, and it was just about making myself special. It's like, do you understand? It's like,
yeah, we understand totally.
Make myself special. I'm special.
And then how did that start? Like, how did that start lifting you out of this? Like, because obviously did that all start?
So then I went to school. When you're different, those who recognize that want to hang with you. When I started going to clubs to dance, obviously I dress up. I get on the dance floor, I do my dance, and I come home when Jazzy B was ready to do the whole soul to soul thing, he called upon the people who obviously were you see on the floor, and I was one of the people he called upon. And when they did the photo shoot, and I figured it all out, I felt like the whole thing came about that I became that girl that they chose, because the whole group of us was chosen, and the whole group of us did a photo shoot, and my picture stood out because I have my own. It was like, if you want something special, something that just, and I guess they made a decision that
extraordinary.
We're going to go with this, and so it worked out.
And can you tell for the listeners that don't know what
Soul to Soul?
Yeah, what is that?
Them.
Yeah.
Soul to Soul were a group which was actually Jazzy B and Nelly Hooper, and Jazzy is a DJ, Nelly Hooper was producer, who created music, and those of you who don't know, he did Tina Turner, the Cranberries. He's dope. Nelly Hooper is dope, and Jazzy has his own skills too. And I feel one of his biggest was he spotted talent, and he brought them all together. Karen Wheeler being one of them, amazing vocalist, beautiful, stunning, beautiful heart, you know. And then there's Rose Windrose, who's the actual from the underground scene. She's the one we knew because she used to also dance, bust the moves, man. She can dance, and she used to sing and dance when the DJs were spinning. And then there were the other DJs, H, Q,
what year was
and
this?
Daddy. This was 80, I want to say 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. But everything blew up 89. Back then, the clubs in the West End were not allowing black folks in, especially black guys. So only black girls were allowed into clubs in West End. And the clubs where you wanted to go and dance, you would go in there and the guys would be left outside. And when we started creating our own DJs, basically we started doing their own underground parties. That's where we all used to go to. That's called the warehouse parties. And there'd be rare groove, the music was kicking, and me and my best friends would go dance, strictly just dance. All dressed up, by the way. Everybody dressed up. You can imagine like what it was in the 40s and 20s, where it was all over, everybody dressed. That's how it was.
Right,
in our
and
scene.
I was experiencing that here in New York in the 80s.
Yes. We dressed up to go dancing. So we all knew, everyone, all the dancers knew each other because we all, word of mouth, you knew where to go. So that's how the whole vibe came about. And when Soul to Soul then opened up the space at African Center, which was in Covent Garden Center, truly center, it was easy for everyone to just go there. And everybody started going there to dance. And that became a movement. And when the album thing came, he plucked people from the scene, which was the smartest thing to do, to be involved. And it was just like...
So how did that change your life? Like, because were you making...
And Soul to Soul blew up.
Soul to Soul blew up. You know what's funny? I didn't feel any change other than what I was doing
already.
Yeah,
Dancing.
I carried on being myself. That was the agreement. I didn't have to be nobody else. So ladies and gentlemen, Soul to Soul, I came out and danced before Karen came out to sing, and Jazzy, you know. And as it got bigger, it was the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Soul to Soul, and I'll step out. You've seen yourself, but it's not somebody else. It's you. I didn't have a stylist. I wasn't styled. This was me.
You were creating the style.
Yes, I was doing me. And it literally was from being me in my little room with my shadow, me getting this, and suddenly it was...
It's truly like Cinderella. Like its own Cinderella story.
So...
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a fantasy thing, kind of. And you still have to stay grounded in it all. And that was the main point for me, that I stayed grounded.
But you were seen and you were recognized.
Yeah. And I started doing with the whole, obviously with the Soul to Soul thing, and then I was being invited with the dancing thing. I did things on TV, and my image became one of the most talked about iconic image. And then when my image began being used all over the world to sell commercials and things, it was like weird, because it was just not something planned. It was just me being me. And then I moved to New York.
And people are so attracted to that. Like at the end of the day, when you talk about the light that's inside of people that everyone has, the only way that light is going to shine is that way.
Yeah.
Like you were pushed so hard to be that sort of inexplicable, irrepeatable essence that we are each born with, that singular thing that we're each born with. and we're not cultivated to access or to feel like that's the most important. You're here, find that. But you were pushed to find that so hard, and then look what happened.
Yeah, and I think it was either to be lost or to be found. Like I could have been lost by all the things that was happening. And that's why I always say that you shouldn't have people judge people too quickly. And so that some of us deal with pain different ways. I dealt with the fact that I was so vulnerable by being so wild that you would leave me alone. By being so visual, you didn't step to me. Literally, unless you were like me, then you knew what it was. So most people thought I was weird. Yes, most people thought you were weird or she's crazy, because the people who stepped and spoke with me and got to be my friend is because they recognized themselves.
So how has it been after that whole chapter of your life, like continuing to do music and be an artist?
Well,
like
music
in this commercial world.
The bit that actually happened before Soul to Soul was Roy Ayers. Roy Ayers, the jazz, funk jazz. I went to see him as a birthday gift. One of my cousins took me to go and see him at the Palladium, which is this venue in West London. And his manager at the time saw me because I used to dress. I'm laughing myself. I feel I'm pretty tame now. I'm trying to think about my younger self was actually crazy. So he saw me and said, nah, Roy's got to see this. And I was like, I didn't really understand. And like, it took me backstage. That's my first time going backstage at a big concert. This is way before Soul to Soul. And as soon as he saw me, he's like, do you dance? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, you remind me. And he said, you remind me of this dancer who dances with Prince. You don't understand. I love Prince. I love this music. I love the fact that, it was just out there. When I started doing my one-woman shows at club, the Prince music was the one I danced to. And I used to dance behind the screen and everything. So the next thing, the Soul to Soul gig came about. So it was just Uncle Roy. I call him Uncle Roy now. He had said to me when he met me that I had a presence of life that money couldn't buy. And
wow, what a thing to say to someone.
And I wasn't aware of, but it never forgotten, because it stayed with me, because I I just said something's going to happen to me, because it was so surreal that he just knew me. He went on stage and announced that he had his dancer from Nigeria, and I went on stage and danced. That was my first stage.
What a thing for someone to say, that you have a presence that money can't buy. Yeah. It's just so inspiring, like, to overcome what for you to end up in a place where someone, how much, no one could see you better than that.
No. And that's the place I feel now as someone who could mentor somebody else now, to see that. I recognize it. And to let that be known with the younger generation. Most of the time what we're missing is actually not missing. It's just nobody has told us that it's there. To recognize it. And sometimes recognizing it too, not to be afraid of it. Because that's the same thing about the song. It's like, don't be afraid of it. You will grow into it, because sometimes it's bigger than you to begin with. It always is bigger than you. And you will grow into it, and how to move with it, how to own it. Because I had to grow into everything that I was. It was bigger than me. I was scared of it. I was scared of failing it. I was scared of not fulfilling it. Having that conversation with Uncle Roy at the time, I didn't fully understand it till when he would come back to London and he would say, so how are you doing? Have you started doing music yet? I was like, music? I had no plans to do music. It was enough just trying to do the fashion and dancing. And I was not doing it. I did fashion. I went to take a fashion course so my father didn't feel like I totally bummed out. I was dancing. Now I was dancing. And I was dancing on a world stage, doing me, not choreography, not nobody else telling me, this is what you're going to do today, how you're going to do it. And I was total control. All the things I did on the street, now was on stage. Wow. How do I explain that to somebody? That I was living me. And it's so easy to have gotten lost in that, but I was so aware of this is me.
Well, you can't really get lost if you're being yourself.
Yeah, but you could, because now you attract a whole bunch of people who come to take. That's where you then need people around you who keep you grounded, that you don't get lost in.
Right.
When you've been yearning and wanting, and suddenly the whole world looks to see they want to give you everything. So I'm thankful, honestly thankful. Because when you ask yourself, how does somebody who has everything over ODing, how do you take drugs? Why do you go when everything you could possibly want is right there? Because you're still yearning, because you're still wanting. But if you have the right people around you to ground you, to let you know. So
to not just keep going and endlessly want more of it.
Yes.
And then you lose yourself.
Yes.
So you said the music. So then what happened with music?
Music was something I remember being in my manager at the time, because at this point I was doing one-woman shows. God, it's so surreal sometimes when I think about it. I was doing me. I was being booked to come on stage. I had a DJ and a percussionist, and between myself and my best friend, who we went to college to do fashion, and we had a clothing line called Revolution with Love, because we love Prince. We really love Prince. So we would create my stage clothes. I had a friend who helped me build my stage as well. So I did performances all around the world as Wunmi the dancer. But while I'm dancing, I always create. I scat. I scat along with music. So within me hearing music, I'm also doing another layer when I dance. I didn't know how bad that I was doing it that loud till when I would travel a lot, come back. When the gigs go away with the so come back. And one particular time I came back with my friends and they were all doing this scatting.
What is scatting?
The music is playing and I'll be I always adding a beat on top of what I'm hearing. So I scat a lot. That was always what I did. That's how I dance. I dance scatting. And so I'm listening to the beat, but I'm dancing my own beat on top of it. So when I came back and they were all doing it, I was like, they said, girl, we missed you. And I never realized I did it out loud. I thought it was in my head. And if you listen to my music, I still do. I write. My writing process starts with me scatting. Like I hear melodies and I record my scats. Then I go and listen to it and I put words into those scats. Like a little girl.
Beautiful.
The little girl has a scattering section that goes dee-ron day, da-da-da-da dee-ron day, da-da-da-da dee-ron day, dee-ro-da-ron day, dee-ro day, dee-da-da-da dee-ron day, dee-da-da-da dee-ron day, dee-ro-da-ron day. And that became little girl, feel no way. Don't worry what them people say. Remember what your mama say. Soon you'll find your way. So I literally write like that. Like it beats. And I always say that I sing percussively rather than, and I put the melody in I hear it and then what's the story about? I always ask myself. I heard words come in. What's the story about? Then I fill in the blank. So basically, I used to scat when I dance. And when I was away, when I came back, all my friends missed me so much that that's what they were doing. So when I came there, I was like, it's kind of funny, the things that you don't realize you're doing that. And so when Uncle Roy would come, he would say to me, so have you started singing? I was like, what is you and this singing? No, Uncle Roy, I'm not singing yet. I can't sing. He said, what do you mean? I said, okay. I said, when you're hearing things in mono, but you're doing stereo, or when it's in stereo and it's mono? He said, what do you mean? I said, basically, I have a very strong African accent. When I sing, I don't sing with my English accent. I actually sing with my African accent. And everything around me was American tone or British. It wasn't that tone. So I didn't hear anything that made me feel confident that what I was hearing made sense. So I never used my voice. So when Uncle Roy kept saying, "You going to sing?" I was like, "I can't sing. I don't sing because I don't sing like anybody." So he actually literally had me do all these scales with him. And he said, "So what do you mean?" I said, "Oh, I don't have to. How do I explain to you what it's not? I can't. I just can't. I'm not singing." One day I was in my manager's office at the time, and something was playing. So obviously I didn't realize I was singing out loud. And she said, "I knew you could sing." And I looked around me to figure out who she was talking about. And I realized she was talking to me. I was like, "Oh, God, no, not you too." With all the gigs with Soul to Soul, everywhere we went, when we come off stage, I would finish dancing. Record company people, "So you sing?" Music was chasing me. And I said it often enough. I said, music was like the boyfriend that was chasing me that I didn't want to get with. I was like, "I don't want to date you. Leave me alone." And it wouldn't leave me alone till I finally said, okay.
So would you say that was one of a big risk for you to?
It was humongous.
Yeah.
And it was butt naked because there was no hiding with it. Mm-hmm. And also this was a place where people really could judge me. Mm-hmm. Like being naked again in a much more inside out way. So to do music, it's because I wouldn't lie on myself. That's the thing, because I didn't want to do music for music's sake. It had to be me.
Honest.
Yes. And I grew up with music in Nigeria, with conscious music. I grew up listening to Fela. So music can only be that way. And that meant me giving everything that I only give to people who I trust totally without thinking about it. I have always listened to my intuition. I wanted to sign with somebody who believed in me strongly, because that's the only way it was going to work. Mm-hmm. Because I had so much self-doubt that you had to be completely, and I had too much doubt. So I couldn't go to mainstream. That wasn't my cup of tea. And when people hear it, they're like, "Wow, if you just do something crossover." I was like, "Crossover where though? I couldn't do an R&B. It's not me." Mm-hmm. This is where I felt the most confident and most comfortable, and that's where I wanted to be. And then Uncle Roy came back in my life again. He was doing his last big album with a major label, and he wanted to feature me. And I went in there, and I do the things I do when I'm writing. I did a scatting. I heard some of the melody, the lyrics, but I scattered the parts. And he said, "Okay, I've got to go. When we come back, we'll finish." Do you know, my finky dinky licky thing that I'm thinking was just me putting an idea down to finish. He had mastered it. It was on the album. My scatting and everything.
Cool.
This is the same guy who put me on stage the first time that I danced.
Like an angel.
My angel. One other thing Uncle Roy said to me is that in doing me, I had to accept that big thing may not
Commercial
happen.
success.
Yes. But what you have to decide what is most important to you. And I made that decision. What was most important to me is that I did not lose myself. Because if I lose myself, then I cannot
do anything.
Yes. When I finally decided that I can do it, because I understood that it was something I had to do, it was going to help me heal. It was going to help me get to a place of understanding, because I still had so much I was holding in. And then I got with my manager at the time, put out a single, which was my first single called "Do You See What I See?" And again, it was fusion of my scatting and singing, my singing. And I never claimed to be a singer. I told people I was a storyteller. I couldn't claim singing. I still was like, "No, it's not yours." So I was a storyteller. And then I got this opportunity, a call from Louis Vega. That was Masters of Work. They were doing a tribute to Fela. And they were like, "Would you do it?" I thought it was somebody pulling pranks, like New Rican Soul. I just listened to the album with all the divas that wanted to work with me. But it was true. And I showed up with my crew. We did the tune. It became the biggest Afro house tune of the 90s. And I showed up. And from then, more people wanted to work with me. It doesn't have to go through the mainstream. I could go through this world. I'm a dancer. The dance world, awesome. And finally, 2006, I felt ready to do my own album called ALA, which stood for and still stands for African Living Abroad. So I'm an African living abroad. And that was the first album that came out. And it spoke about the songs. I had a song called Crossover, which basically is about people telling me to do crossover. And I said, what do you mean crossover? You mean do something commercial? You mean, what does that mean though? Break it down for me.
It's such an absurd term.
Yes. So that I had
it's
that song.
basically meaning dummy yourself down.
Yes.
Sell out.
And I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. And then the same scenario, when I walked into a scenario where they were doing a tribute to Fela, and they told me that I wasn't singing right. They wanted me to sing more like Macy Gray, because she had done on the tribute to Fela album, she had sang. And I was like, but she was trying to sound like the Fela women. And I grew up, that's me. So it was kind of like I was always either too African or not African enough. And then I said, I had to own me. This was really the understanding that people are going to keep trying to define you. So you have to start in a place where you say, I know who I am. So that's what my first album. And that album, I was happy. It was really me finally claiming that I can do music on my own way, my terms, like everything else I've been doing. And I ended up having followings and having a dance company, a choreographer who used my music for his projects and designing costumes. Through my collaboration with him, I designed 6 costumes on Alvin Ailey. I told my dad, I said, Dad, I know you never had these plans for me, but I'm living the life that I was born to do.
Did he get it?
Yes. Yeah. I'm his only child. I'm all he's got. And I'm thankful. And I'm thankful. And he loves me. And being able to recognize that and accept that and live with that. And
that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
That you can say that now.
Yes. Yes.
What would you say to your 10-year-old self?
Butterfly, you're flying. You're flying. I have lots of God kids, lots and lots of God children. And I remember every time they're with me, the one thing I recognize every child needs to feel is loved. Like the love is solid. When they look in your eyes and they know how much you've got their back, like they can fly, then you don't hold back. You know, you're fearless. So that's what I'll fly, butterfly.
You are fearless.
I had to grow into believing that. Wunmi Ibiwunmi is officially grown.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you
so much.
That was absolutely a treasure. Gorgeous, amazing moment.
We hope you were inspired by this episode.
Until next week, that's it from me, Elisa.
And me, Lily.
If you agree that facades separate us and being radically honest brings us together, help spread the movement for radical self-acceptance by sharing this episode and subscribing to our podcast.
You can also watch our videos by subscribing to our YouTube channel and following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook using the handle @StyleLikeU.
That's the letter U instead of the word you.
And check out our book, True Style is What's Underneath, The Self-Acceptance Revolution, on Amazon or at a local bookstore near you.
We can't skip ahead to a happy ending or live inside a photoshopped image or an Instagram filter. There's no finding oneself when glossing over the truth.